Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Please be seated. And please let the record reflect that board members Brad Tucker, Jimmy Durnall, Larry DeMoss, and Dana Kerr are participating in person. And we have board member Angie Jacobs on audio Zoom. Can you hear us, Angie?
I'm present.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. The first item of business is visitor comments. If there are any visitors, then Mr. Irwin will invite you down to address the board. Please give your name and tell us what you want us to know.
First up is Melissa Wickers. I'm sorry.
I wasn't hoping to be first up, but hi, everybody. I did send you an email earlier, so I will not go into everything that I sent you. But first of all, I just want to say thank you for sending out the proposed COVID safety protocols via email last week. That was really nice to be able to get that and have a chance to look at it before tonight. I do have some concerns and questions that I wanted to share. The plan for the upcoming school year does make me a little nervous to send my child to school at this point, as I do not trust that at some point we won't have to go back to some of the protocols that we had last year. And last year, as you all know, was pretty rough for everybody involved. I realized that we were all just doing the best that we could do, and everybody was going along with that just to try to get through the school year. But I was really hoping that this year we didn't have to just try to get through the school year again. I'm really hoping that we can focus on thriving and not just surviving this year. Secondly, let me say that I am aware that COVID is real and can be serious. I personally had it for 6 weeks, and others I know have had it and am aware of the potential dangers. But when it comes to our kids, I do not feel that we have dealt them a fair hand. I'm concerned that overall as a nation, specifically in our public schools, we are more focused on COVID safety than we are on mental health safety. This virus overall has not physically affected children in a harmful way in the numbers that we originally thought it might. The risks of being vaccinated are outweighing the risk of them contacting the virus at this point. The risks and fallout of an unstable environment and isolation is far greater than the risk of COVID for children under 19, but yet those things are remaining our focus. My concern is that we are not giving enough attention to what is needed to make sure our kids are mentally healthy. This past year, I struggled at home with my own kids' struggles with mental health. I also witnessed my niece struggle with mental health and multiple other children in our community and other communities, something none of us want to have to repeat this year. The fact that our local pediatricians say that they have seen an increase of something like 400% in anxiety and depression cases in children and have prescribed more medication for mental health in children than ever before, and that they have seen more kids for suicide attempts than they have for COVID hospitalization this year, which, by the way, Monroe County did not see any children for COVID hospitalization, should tell us something about what is needed. On the surface, it may have seemed like kids were making it or hanging in there or resilient, as I heard many people say. But I can tell you if they have to endure this another year, they will likely not be able to hide their struggles any longer. So many parents, kids, teachers I know are literally dreading heading back to school this year because they are still trying to undo the trauma they experienced over the last school year. They are concerned it will be more of the same, and the same is quite honestly hard. Changing our schedule 6 times in 1 year, isolating kids with hybrid or full e-learning, taking away all of the social activities that make a child want to go to school, including social events and eating lunch together in the lunchroom, or time without masks so they can talk with each other or interact with their teachers in their class, taking away important milestones that they look forward to each year, punishing kids for not wearing their mask correctly versus asking them how they are doing, and getting along with all of the craziness that has surrounded them and come down on them in society this year has taken a toll on them. We know more now about the virus, how the virus affects kids. More people are vaccinated now, and we need to protect our children's mental health more now. We need as much normalcy as possible for these kids. I am blown away this year as I was last, that our kids can live relatively normal lives during the summer, play baseball, have overnights with their friends, go to stores, restaurants, amusement parks, and swim with each other, all while not wearing a mask or social distancing and not having any cases of COVID to my knowledge. But then they came back to school with lots of restrictions and guidelines and the fear that they're going to infect everyone around them if they don't wear their mask and keep away from each other. Don't touch, don't talk, cover yourself up, stay away. It is hard for me to wrap my brain around, and I'm guessing even more so for kids to have to. It is especially hard when I see other schools have less restrictions and they have no more or less cases than we have at our school and in our community. I would like to request that we as a school corporation implement something for our kids' mental health and to reduce the number of restrictions and quarantine requirements so that they can have healthy interactions full-time, again with their teachers and their classmates. Some of the ideas that I have, I outlined in my email that I sent to you. I won't go into all of it here today, but there are other schools that are implementing some things that I think are a good idea that we can maybe look at. And also just giving them the opportunity to speak about their mental health issues. And I know that we have implemented some more counselors and things like that, and I think that's great. But maybe even implementing some more opportunities for that discussion at the school level would be a great idea. Lastly, a huge concern of mine in the proposed plan is requiring volunteers to be vaccinated. We have never, ever requested vaccination records of volunteers before. And I'm not sure how it makes sense that teachers and bus drivers can be with kids all day, every day, and choose not to be vaccinated, but volunteers who will spend one day with the kids are required to be vaccinated. I see this as a huge violation of privacy and overreach. My personal health and medical decisions should not be a factor in me volunteering with my child's classroom. In closing, I believe it is time to give the power back to parents and families to decide what is best for their own physical health and to determine, like always, when to keep their kids home. I believe it is time that our focus needs to be on creating an environment that is good for our children's mental health and giving them as much normalcy as possible by keeping them in school, in person, full-time, giving them opportunities to socialize with others and have fun, and by giving them opportunities to attend to any mental health issues that might arise. I appreciate the care, work, and time each of you has put into making these decisions, and that you are willing to listen to all of our concerns and take them into consideration. I'm looking forward to seeing some changes made for a stronger school year this year. Thank you very much.
Next is Michelle Garrett.
Good evening. I'm not going to speak as eloquently as Melissa did. I barely got here in time. I wanted to start out with some data that came mainly from the Indiana dashboard and the CDC website. So far, since March of 2020, there's been 760,163 cases of COVID confirmed through tests, 13,514 deaths. If you take all that into account, that's a 1.77% death rate for only those who tested positive. Now, if you bring in the LTC communities, older folks, nursing homes, they had 24,768 cases of COVID that were confirmed, 6,305 deaths. That is a 25.45% death rate. If you take out these LTC communities and just look at the numbers for our regular citizens, or citizens that aren't in a long-term care facility, we account for 735,395 cases and 7,209 deaths. That is 0.98% death rate. Then you take in the number of people who had no symptoms. 1/3 of the country, according to the CDC site, 1/3 of the country has been confirmed to have COVID. That's just that have been tested. There are many, many more that were not tested, had no symptoms, mild symptoms, and did not go in to get tested. That's a 99.02% confirmed survival rate, which is actually much higher when you take into account the people that were not tested. As of the beginning of June this year, no one under 50 had passed away from COVID in Monroe County. 85% of the country that are high risk, age 65 and up, have been vaccinated. That is pretty telling for herd immunity and keeping our older citizens and those at risk safe. Super spreader trackers have shown very little transmission rate from student to teacher and staff and vice versa. The CDC site acknowledges that rate of transmission with COVID and other illnesses is much, much higher when someone actually has symptoms and is ill than when they do not have symptoms. I stand by my original suggestion of last year of really the only safety protocol, deep cleaning, that is fine. But the main safety protocol is not checking who has COVID UA vaccination, parents, students, employees included, and just asking that anyone sick with any illness stay home. Anyone that becomes sick at school, send them home. So I do like some of the things in the contingent safety plan. I know a lot of time was put into this. I'm fine with most of it, but really, at this point, with such a low rate of seriousness, especially among students, I'm pretty concerned about visitors getting permission to enter school buildings. I'm very concerned about only allowing vaccinated parents to go on field trips, volunteer. That is, as Melissa had stated, a bit of an overreach and opening up a Pandora's box for further implementation to go deeper in the future. My proposal is to take out, in this contingent plan, to completely take out permission, finding out who is vaccinated, who is not, parents, students, employees. If I want to come and spend time with my students, my children in school, if I want to go on their field trips, as I've always done, I've never seen a parent or teacher or anyone go on a field trip or volunteer that was actually sick. Like, we're not going to come in and do that. And per the CDC site, the transmission really is more substantial of any illness when somebody actually has symptoms. I really don't like that Pandora's box. That's medical liberties, that's privacy. It's just not acceptable in my eyes. I'm all for if anybody wants to choose to be vaccinated. I'm all for if anybody wants to choose to wear a mask. That's their prerogative, my prerogative. But giving away information at this point in time and how it extends and this, the way that our culture's going, is not very acceptable. I say we just open back up the way we used to be. A little extra cleaning is fine. I'm fine with a little bit of the social distancing with desks, but I think we need to scratch these extra things and get back to it. Thank you.
Mr. Irwin, we originally discussed that, so those who are here on time, we normally only allow 3 minutes per speaker. When there's only a couple, I usually extend that to 5. So anyone who was here on time can have 5 minutes. Those who came in late, because we do have a lot of a meeting tonight, we'll keep theirs to 3 minutes. Mr. Irwin.
Next up is Becca Anderson.
Good evening. It's great to see all of you. I really did appreciate you getting us that plan so we could review it before the meeting tonight. Dr. Sanders, thank you very much for that. Honestly, I was very pleased with the majority of it. I was really happy to see that masks would be optional for the students. I was an advocate of that last year, and I'm very thankful for that this year. So thank you for giving us that opportunity to allow families to make those medical decisions for themselves. Just a couple of questions that I had. I know they're not going to be answered, but just some things, especially some of these are even for the administrators of buildings that are in the room tonight. Melissa touched on one thing, and that was lunch. It may not seem like a big deal for an adult, but for kids, it is a big deal to get together and gather with your friends for lunch. And even having access for the older students to have access to microwaves. It's hard to plan lunches all year long when you can only do cold things. And so I would love to see that happen this year. That be something, another normal thing that kids were used to before being implemented again. Again, I know that doesn't seem like a big deal, but for my kids, it was something that if they could have that back again, I think it would make a big difference to them. One thing that the plan didn't really make clear is if teachers in individual classrooms would be able to implement mask policies in their own classrooms, or if building administrators would be able to implement mask protocol in their own buildings, or is this a corporation-wide policy that masks will be optional no matter if a teacher wants students to wear them in a classroom or not? I hope that makes sense. The field trip thing was a concern to me. In fact, I agree with Michelle that should be completely done away with. It is not the corporation's, it's not your business what my personal medical decisions are. And truthfully, I'm very disappointed that whoever, was it all of you or whoever came together to put that policy in place or to draft that policy, I'm really disappointed that those would even be considerations, that you would expect field trip volunteers or volunteers coming into the building to provide proof of vaccination. That is between my doctor and me. And on that note, I'd like to close tonight with just a personal situation. I have a daughter who is 15 years old who has been battling Lyme disease and other tick-borne illnesses since she was 2 years old. And it's been I can't even go into all of the things that we've dealt with. You can imagine if you have a child with illness that it's a very challenging thing. And her doctor very boldly and very specifically said, do not get her the vaccine at this point. Encouraged our family to not receive the vaccine. That is a personal doctor, a personal decision that our family is to make on our own. And for a school corporation to expect that me as a parent, that I would have to be vaccinated to be able to come and volunteer at the school or to be on a field trip, it's not acceptable. And there are many, many parents who are very frustrated that even made it into the possibility of this plan. So thank you again. I know that this is a really hard task that's in front of you. I do appreciate it very much. These were just some of my concerns that came up in reviewing the plan, and want to share them with you tonight. So thank you.
Marcy Edwards.
Okay. So I will be here for 3 minutes. Sorry I'm late. I work a full-time job. That's where I was coming from. I have 3 children at the schools, and we are going to be in 3 different schools. I am going to have a 3rd grader, an 8th grader, and a sophomore in high school. I came to the last year's school board meetings and expressed my concerns for the way that we were handling the virus and the hybrid situation and everything else. So what I specifically want to address tonight, and I'm going to sound like a broken record because it's been addressed, but my 2 biggest things are on the contingency plan. Just like they're sharing, the vaccination being required for parents. First of all, like Becca said, it's none of your business whether me, my husband, anybody in my family's been vaccinated or not. It's also should be none of your business whether any of my 3 children are vaccinated or they are not. So what it's creating, first of all, I'm not sure what the plan is to prove whether they are or not. But what you're doing is you're labeling these children, and psychologically, it's been proven that you put a label on them, and nothing good is going to come of it. So I'm asking you to not label my children one way or another. You know, I've been in some conversations with people, and another concern, which is kind of off topic, is the curriculum for next year as well, and making sure I've been warned by lots of people to make sure that the critical race theory does not get into the school system. And I felt like I dealt with that bits and pieces a little bit last year, and had to address administration, send emails because of basically what a teacher at the junior high level decided what she thought was appropriate to be teaching my son in what was supposed to have been a homeroom classroom while they were eating lunch, okay? And so I'm asking also now, I want to see the specific curriculum before registration opens. But I'm also, biggest thing is the vaccination, so I'm kind of going back and forth a little bit. I apologize for that. And also the second thing in the contingency plan that I want to address is the quarantining of students who are not vaccinated. Again, you're labeling those kids. So whether you say, oh, people will know or they won't know, well, if you take student A, B, and C, and they're all together around somebody and they get quarantined, well, how are you going to know? And 2 of those 3 students get quarantined, but the third one doesn't. Well, then there you go. That's the label you're putting on those kids right now, and it's just going to cause nothing but trouble. You guys are overstepping by putting these things into that plan, okay? These kids are coming to school. It's public education. They're coming to school to learn, to be taught, not for them to be judged, labeled, criticized, for their personal and what should remain personal choices. Okay. So I'm just asking you to please revise it, get it out of there that they need to be vaccinated to avoid quarantine, which has been proven ineffective anyways. And let's get on with the school year. Remain open, do what we're here for, which is to teach these kids, not push your own agendas on them, and give them the same opportunities that they're getting in surrounding counties.
Mary Blessinger. She coming up? Mary Blessinger. She's not here. Okay. Jody Myers.
Hi there. I'm Jody Myers. I'm going to date myself here, 60-year resident of Ellettsville. I graduated from Edgewood. My children graduated from Edgewood. My grandsons are attending the elementary school, and my great-grandson is about to attend the elementary school. So we have 4 generations that are going to be coming through Edgewood. I am very ill prepared. About a month ago when we had the flood damage in Monroe County, 4-foot oak tree fell on my home, and I've been homeless ever since. So all of my notes and all of my research was lost, and I apologize for that. But I did scribble some notes, and I thank you for your time. I'm just going to take a couple of minutes, I hope. I think the misinformation that's coming out about COVID is just staggering. Whether you get it from the World Health Organization or the CDC or Johns Hopkins, different recommendations come across the board every single day, it seems like. Last spring, a health aide at EPS posted on a social media site that during their regular briefings from the Indiana State Department of Health, it was reported that there had been 2,500 children deaths in Indiana since COVID began. 2,500. I simply did not believe it, so I reached out to Lori Ramsey, who's the chief nurse consultant for the Indiana State Department of Health. She apologized profusely, said that the wrong information was given to the school and she would reach out to correct it. She followed up with me in an email on June 15th, and she said that there had been a total of 6 deaths in the state of Indiana between the ages of 0 and 17. She didn't drill it down any further than that. I only make the point to talk about the misinformation. I do not mean to say that the death of a child is acceptable, because it's not. I will tell you that my grandsons came home every day last year, and as soon as they got off the school bus, they literally ripped their masks off their face and took a breath of fresh air. I have already begun researching a homeschool co-op. I have a curriculum, I have an art teacher, a music teacher, and science teachers lined up. The only thing we're looking at is for locations, just in case we have to go that route, because we do not want our children, I do not want my grandchildren and other people's children, if they don't want that choice, if they, not to have to wear masks. We would like for our children to attend EPS and EIS, but we also want them to attend mask-free. It's time to join other schools around the country and to take a stand for our constitutional rights. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you all very much for coming tonight and speaking. Is a difficult topic, and it's good to hear from all of you. So thank you for speaking with us. Yes, sir.
The speaker, the one presenter from the public, we missed her name. She's here now.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to be real honest. The email you sent, I've not even gone through it all yet. I mean, I've gotten through a little bit of it, heard a little bit about it, talked to some friends and stuff about it, but my main reason for coming up and talking was supporting...
I'm sorry, what's your name again? I didn't...
Mary Blessinger.
Okay.
Sorry. I have an 8th grader here. Anyway, I'm here to support my friends who were going to speak, but I'm kind of on the opposite end. My boys have been vaccinated. I've been vaccinated. My husband has been, but I'm kind of a rule. Everything's been. We've always been vaccinated for everything. But when it came out saying that kids couldn't go on field trips if they haven't been vaccinated, or no, not right.
I didn't say that. No.
Okay. Well, anyway, I just think that it should be a choice. That if people want to, go ahead, do it. If you don't want to, it's just kind of like the flu shot. I mean, if you get the flu shot, or if you don't get the flu shot, you're still allowed to go do those things, right? And on the part about being quarantined, on that part, it kind of goes back to the same concept. The vaccination's been out there long enough now that it is a choice for people to get it or not get it. And so on the other aspect of that, just because you haven't been vaccinated and you're around somebody that I don't even know why, I guess I don't even know why would that still be an issue at this point? Because people have had the choice to do it. So if you've chosen not to do it, why would you need to quarantine? You need to quarantine the sick, not the healthy. So didn't quite understand that part of it. I don't know what else to say. But I just want to see our kids back in school full time without having to wear masks. Do you go out to public now? You go out to restaurants now? It's not mandated that you wear a mask. I don't know. I don't understand why it should be mandated in the schools as well. I don't know exactly even where that came from. So I don't know. Is there anything else I need to say? I don't know what else I need to say. I think that's about it. Basically, just that I'm kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum. Everybody has been vaccinated, but I also understand everybody else's rights to not be vaccinated. And even though you haven't, they should still be treated the people that have been and haven't been, everybody should be treated the same at this point, no matter what, because it's been out there long enough not to be. Does that make sense? Nobody cares. Okay. That's it. I think that's it.
And thank you.
Mr. Kerr, I just want to say that I did receive an email from Becca and Melissa and today, and I will definitely respond to those. And anybody else here tonight, feel free to email me, call, make an appointment. We could talk in person. Since I sent out the plan, I've been answering emails and did a Zoom meeting today with a couple parents. So we definitely want to be open and transparent and make sure that everybody has a chance to share their concerns and also hear where we might be coming from when we create these plans. So.
Thank you. Okay. Moving on with the agenda, the next item is the consent agenda, and for that we have approval of minutes for the June 1st special board meeting, the June 21st regular board meeting, and the June 21st work session. We have the treasurer's report for June of 2020, and Mr. Durnall, could you give us the claims?
Yes, sir, thank you. The gross wages for June 4th, 2021, $935,248.96. Gross wages for June 18th, 2021, $600,792.78. Claims prepays for 6/1/21 through 6/30/21, $980,249.59. Claims regular vouchers, July 19th, 2021, $224,515.38. Forest Hills vouchers, 7/20/2021, $342,332.49 for a grand total of $3,083,139.20.
Thank you, Mr. Durnall. We also have personnel resignations, retirements, non-renewals, leaves, and terminations 1 through 10, and personnel appointments and transfers 1 through 30. So do we have a motion on the consent agenda?
I'd move approval.
Moved and seconded. Any questions, comments?
second.
Yes, okay. Any questions or comments on the consent agenda? Hearing none, with one of our members being by Zoom, we will do a roll call vote. Mrs. Jacobs?
Yes.
Mr. Durnall?
Yes.
Mr. Tucker?
Yes.
Mr. DeMoss?
Yes.
And Mr. Kerr is a yes as well. Our next
Mr.
agenda
Kerr?
item is the...
Mr. Kerr?
Yes.
I'm sorry. I just want to recognize a few people, if I could.
Sure, please, go ahead.
I want to recognize Amy Phillips, who is resigning. She's taking a position at Sherwood Oaks Christian Church West to work as a counselor. And Amy has been with us for 26 years, 17 as a music teacher, and 9 as a counselor, and we wish her the best of luck. We've had some folks moving around. Susan Shockney is moving from the secretarial office person at the high school to become our benefits specialist, and she's going to do a great job at that. We are also hiring a new director of special education, Nick McGinnis, and he was just impressive in his interview. He brings with him quite a few years of experience as an administrator. He comes to us from MCC, where he was a elementary school principal. His wife Ashley is actually also going to be coming to RBB and teaching high school English. And Nancy Van Allen is moving from a teacher's position to be our new media specialist at the high school.
Thank you very much. lot of good people coming, and unfortunately have one going as well. So, next we have the business manager's report. So, Mr. Irwin.
So you guys should have the cash flows there at your desk. Start out with the education fund. Education fund in June rolled in very accurately as far as receipts and expenses go. I updated the state tuition support payments with the most up-to-date Form 54 document, which reflects the new state budget, and then the estimates that they're using for our funding all the way up until November and December, when they start to reconcile based on your September ADM. Year end's looking very positive, and we're definitely very pleased with where we stand in this fund. Turn over to the debt service fund. During the month of June, we received our June settlement, our tax disbursements, and we got a normal distribution. We also paid a small trustee fee, which was expected, and all the receipts and expenditures were expected as well, and we are where we expected to be. Turning over to the operations fund, we received the June disbursements of taxes in that fund as well. Usually the disbursement in June is a little higher than at the end of the year, and this year will be no different. We did make our transfer to rainy day to accomplish that goal, of which the board and the administration had a few years back, which brings our rainy day fund up to $1 million, which was something that's taken a little while to get back to, but it continues to regain that financial stability that the school corporation needs. Year end is in a very solid place, and we feel really good about where we're headed for the end of the year. So with that, I'll take any questions.
I presume that the basic grant increase that is reflected in July, that's just the new fiscal year, is that correct?
That's based on the new fiscal year. So with the new budget that the legislative committee approved, with that reflects the new payments. So they've taken into account all of those changes, those legislative changes that have occurred. And so that's based on the estimate that the department's using for our ADM in September.
Okay.
And so based on that, they use our current grants from special ed, CTE, all of those things, and they roll those forward, and then they continue to use that number until they'll take our September ADM, and then they'll reconcile November and
Well,
December.
to me, it's nice seeing an
Absolutely.
increase of $140,000, so.
Absolutely.
Okay, good, thank you.
Any further questions?
I'd like to compliment Mr. Irwin and Dr. Sanders for working within our budget, and I appreciate the fact that we were able to get the rainy day fund where we wanted it to be, and it just gives us a little peace of mind in case things start to unravel financially, so I appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Next up is the Ready Schools student-run coffee shop update. Dr. Sanders.
All right, well, I'm going to invite Jamie Miller, our Ready Schools coordinator, up to the microphone tonight to give us a general update on Ready Schools. Stacia Myers, who is a business teacher at the Edgewood High School, is also here tonight to give an update on our student-run coffee shop. And we have two of our awesome high school students, Kennedy Bruns and Gretchen Mundy, who will be here tonight, who are here tonight to talk about the business model that they created. And then finally, Jamie has an introduction to make tonight.
Good evening. It's always nice to join you all. So, want to go ahead? This first slide, the graduate profile, I hope you all eventually tire of seeing this, because that means we've sufficiently gotten this out to be seen everywhere. And I will send you all the slide deck after this, board members, so that you can see some of these slides. There's a lot there, but I'll send them afterwards for you guys to be able to review. But this graduate profile, this really is one of the core tenets of all things Ready Schools, because this is our commitment to the community. This skill set, these 6 different types of skills, this is what needs to be embedded from kindergarten through our seniors. And it's, in some cases, very new skills to the classroom, so new to our teachers as much so as our students. So Ready Schools is all about infusing these skills into new experiences and new challenges, and in some cases, just tangible curriculum even. But regardless of how we incorporate these into each grade level, I hope that you continue to see and hear these skills through everything that you experience with Ready Schools. So I'm just going to continue to share it with you because these skills really are hopefully going to be embedded in everything we do. So these first couple of slides, this is an overview that we just shared, and at the last meeting in June, we spoke to professional learning communities, or PLCs, so I wanted to just continue to, again, connect this piece to everything else that we're sharing that we've already implemented. So in each of these three sections of this visual, the why, the how, and the what, the first one, the why, this is our vision and our mission language that we came up with, gosh, a year and a half ago now. I'm not sure, pre-COVID. We have a new vision and mission statement to really capture the way education is changing. We're changing how we do school, and we don't have to tell you all that. But these new career awareness skills and new transferable social, emotional skills, interpersonal skills, everything we're doing is changing. So this really goes all the way back to our vision and mission statement. So how we're going to change all of that. PLCs is the foundation. So this is where we're equipping our teachers. So over the next year, we're going to take baby steps to revisit how we're equipping our teachers. We can't prepare our students for a world if we don't know how to prepare them for that world. In a lot of cases, our teachers, this is their one career that they've invested all of their passion in. And if they don't know what the workforce looks like and how quickly it's changing, and they don't have the time to collaborate and to connect and revisit data and inform their own instruction and continue to iterate, then they can't prepare their students to do the same. So those 4 critical questions that you see, that's going to continue to create this foundation in everything that our teachers are doing to try to continue to iterate and improve instruction for all of our students across all grade levels. So what do we want the students to know? How do we know when they'll learn it? Excuse me, what do we do if they haven't learned it? And then what do we do once they have? It sounds simple, but it really, that's the core of everything that we do already in our classrooms. So Ready Schools is built on that exact same foundation. And then the what, this is where all of the implementation strategies that you hear me come tell you about and show photos of, this is what we're building on that foundation. So as we equip our teachers and as we equip our students to learn and to teach in completely different ways, that sounds daunting, but each of these strategies is its own piece of this puzzle. And each of these strategies are being implemented already in different ways and to varying degrees in each of our schools. So PBL, that's something that's been in place for 5+ years now in our school and has really changed how we empower kids to take ownership of their own learning. And as you go through each of these strategies and everything that I share here about the last semester, you'll see that that foundation, again, it's just that Ready Schools is about equipping our teachers and our students to feel more equipped and empowered and able to face an evolving world. So over the last semester, our design labs are a big focal point of Ready Schools because it's something to see and experience. And in the case of both the junior high and the high school now, brand new construction, just like the elementary schools experienced a few years back. So these design labs are truly state of the art. They're innovative learning spaces in every sense of the term. So this is the lab at the junior high with dry erase tabletops that convert from sitting to standing. So flexible options for small groups, large groups. They can move on caster wheels, and that's the clean side of the lab. Then the dirty side of the lab is where we have the laser cutters and a CNC router coming and vinyl cutters and hand tools and all sorts of things that kids are just starting in the spring semester to go through safety modules to learn how to use under supervision, of course. But in every case, these labs are bringing relevancy and authenticity to what might have previously been a cardboard and duct tape project. So when our kids are envisioning or designing prototypes to solve a problem, whether it's to solve a prosthetic, create a prosthetic to solve a hypothetical problem, or to truly create a solution to a problem right here on our campus, perhaps. Or in a couple cases, kids have even been commissioned to solve problems out in the community. This lab just takes it to another level. These labs are allowing them to have access to market-ready tools, to create market-ready products that they really feel are authentic and are valid representations of what they're envisioning when they're designing. So this is a picture of what will be the Innovative Learning Center next at the high school now. So this is the view from C115A, what was that meeting room. The next 2 rooms over are all under renovation now to create the same type of space now at the high school. So it's 4 quadrants, essentially: digital design, digital fabrication, which mirror the 2 labs here at the junior high that are actually right over there, and then a collaborative presentation space, or a dynamic presentation space, where there will be the technology, the lectern, the flexible seating for small group presentations, classes to come in and use, but also presentations of this caliber. And then the 4th space is the audio video studio, where there'll be portable podcast booths, a green screen room, so audio and video production equipment for kids to be able to demonstrate their learning and create in that way. So in each of these spaces, these are just new, innovative ways for the kids our students to demonstrate their learning in age-appropriate ways through each of our schools. So the initiative has obviously followed them up through the grades, starting with the STEAM lab at the primary and intermediate, and now building on that foundation up through the junior high and high school. So just one example of this work still taking place throughout the summer. I was fortunate, it was my honor to take a team of teacher leaders to Chattanooga, Tennessee this summer in cooperation with ROI, who funds our portions of our Ready Schools initiative, to be able to take more intentional time and longer spans of time than we can get in a normal school week to really be able to dig into these tools and create ourselves. So we were able to use laser cutters and see the CNC router in action and vinyl cutters and 3D printers, and have a challenge of our own as teachers to experience this just in a sense that speaks to what I was just sharing, that our teachers can't ask of the kids what they haven't done themselves, and they can't teach the kids or facilitate their learning with tools that they haven't used. So this group of teachers rolled their sleeves up, and for several days they were there in a lab from 8 to 5 every day, facing challenges of their own and getting frustrated and iterating and persevering through that in just the same ways that we're excited to be able to see our kids rise to the same challenges. So I kind of already spoke to the audio video production, so I will sort of just skip over that, but you all will be able to see the highlights from what we did in the last semester there, just fortunate to be able to actually take site visits and see other spaces to inform ours. And then the Mustang Coffee Corral is really what I was supposed to get to quicker than I did. But these are 2 pictures of the construction underway in the media center at the high school. So what was an office and a storage room for the media specialist there, sorry to Nancy Van Allen what she walked into here, but it's about to be a commercial grade kitchen for our student-run coffee shop. So this was a challenge that we truly threw at the introduction to business students in the spring semester in the most authentic way possible. And they dove in to research. They weren't sure if we had lost our minds, but we continued to try to run alongside them and facilitate as best we could, one step ahead of them, in envisioning what it looks like to work with the fire department, to work with the planning department, to work with the health department, and go through all those same steps that a new business owner would have to go through to plan for and implement a business of their own. So this is just a little glimpse of what that space is going to become, and we can't wait to come to you with the after photos. But the kids really did take it and run with it. So this is PBL in its truest form, where we say as teachers, as facilitators, as long as we're one step ahead of them, then we're doing our job and we're just supporting them along the way. And they asked the critical questions and sought out the solutions, and we're well on our way to having a viable student-run coffee shop. So if anyone in the audience knows how to work an espresso machine, that's our next challenge. But I'm going to, with that, be quiet and bring up Mrs. Myers as well as Kennedy and Gretchen to share just a little bit from their perspective what that experience was like, to be able to really take ownership of this and just kind of leave you with their thoughts, and then we will come back to what this looks like and with the business connections and introduce our other guests as well.
So I'm really just going to kind of let them run with this. I'll just tell you it has been an absolute honor to teach this class. I'm so nervous. I'm so sorry. To teach this class and to work with these kids and to see the really cool things that they have done. So if you have questions for them, I encourage you to ask them. They have all kinds of really cool ideas and things to express to you. So I will let them take it away.
Hi, I'm Gretchen. Oh, and I'm Kennedy. So whenever we were building the coffee shop and Mrs. Myers was first introducing like the interactive learning center in the coffee shop, I was like, oh, this is kind of way out there, and I didn't think it'd be that useful. But honestly, after we got the experience of like writing the business plan and getting to work with mentors that own businesses, I realized how important these type of things are. It gives me a lot more faith in the students and how they'll do in the future, honestly, because it definitely helped me learn a lot about the real world and what businesses expect from you. So, Gretchen.
We worked on that project every day during class, and I think it was every Friday we would talk to Bob Costello, he like owns Soma, and then every time that we had a question on how to do the business plan, he would help us out, and that was really nice.
Yeah, I feel like this wouldn't have gone near as smoothly had Mrs. Myers not set us up with like as much as she did to succeed. And Bob was really helpful in giving us information specific to coffee shops, but also just businesses in general, that even whenever we were looking for jobs, I started to understand more of why something works the way it does because of this experience. Do you have anything else? I mean, if you have any questions, I guess, then.
I have dozens of questions, but I'll try to keep them down. Yeah. So for somebody out in the community, when is the coffee shop operating? Who's going to be operating it? How does it affect your schedule during the school day? Those kinds of things.
Yeah, we were hoping to start it like towards the beginning of the day, maybe have it open during first period, and then during both lunch periods, after school, and then during like football games or any sort of after school event, whether it be music related or just sports. But also, I guess maybe any time in that open window, because I think at one point Mrs. Myers had talked about like a food truck, mobile way to get food out to people. But as far as like affecting students' schedules, it would be possible to work during lunches, or if you maybe had like a study hall period you'd want to be willing to work. But I mean, after school, I could imagine maybe some kids would want to do it because it's just money for getting to go to school and see your friends and get some new work experience that you wouldn't have otherwise.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr.
I
DeVos.
sat in on the day that each of the teams each team wrote their own business plan, and they presented their plans to through a Zoom meeting to local business leaders. And I was impressed by two things. One, just their presentations alone were just very impressive. But these business leaders, they asked some very challenging questions. And at one point, I'm just wondering, do these business leaders, are they remembering that these are high school students? But the students, they answered every difficult question with excellence. And I was very proud of them. And just like the question Larry asked, and just on the spot, just was a great answer. And so just very evident of the kind of student we have at Edgewood High School.
What ended up being the most difficult part about the business plan section, or an area that was more difficult than the others?
I honestly think that just starting it out was probably the hardest because we didn't really know where to start. Obviously, we're 16, have never written a business plan, but our mentors really helped us get through that a lot. It was kind of difficult to figure out like what products you wanted to sell or how much you would make it cost, because you want to be able to make profit, but also don't want to run students dry. So,
Are the workers, will they earn a wage for?
yeah, I forget the exact amounts that we set, but we did set wages for each, both manager positions versus baristas who have all their own specific duties, but
It should be on the business plan, I think.
yeah.
Approximately how many workers will there be at the outset?
Originally, we started with just maybe up to 5 baristas, because I know that typically baristas do all the money handling, dishwashing, they kind of do all that for themselves. And at the start, 1, maybe 2 managers, just so that we aren't having to also worry about paying, like overstaffing and having to pay that many people. But we would hope to be able to get more staff as hopefully the business grows at the school.
Okay, great.
So we have 2 windows, main window in the library, and then are you working the other?
Okay, I think it was 2 windows. I think one that was like in the back that was like a sliding door, and then the main one that was in the media center.
When can I place my order?
Stay tuned.
So your employees coming from the pool of students that are already in is it the ICE program, Ms. Myers? Is this the ICE program where these students are coming from, or the afternoon program?
No.
Okay.
So in order for them to be management, sorry.
We'll need you on the microphone.
Right.
In order for them to be management, they have to take a business management course. But other than that, any student can come in and be a student worker. So they can all be a barista. But in order to be like what we would consider a CEO, CFO, CIO, anything like that, they'll have to take a business management course. Does that make sense? So it's a new course that we're offering. But no CTE. It's a CTE course, but not ICE. We don't
Mainly
offer
seniors?
ICE right now.
Mainly seniors in the course?
No.
Oh, okay.
We have sophomores
All
through
grade
seniors.
levels.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if we could, if it's okay, forward a copy of the business plan to the board members. I'd like to see that.
You have a copy of it? Of their business plan?
Of their business plan, yeah.
Yeah, you should
It's-
have a
it's
copy
here?
right in front
Okay.
of you.
All right, perfect.
Yeah, it's really good. I think it'll
right.
be some good nighttime reading for you tonight, so.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Excellent.
The Mocha Mustang.
Any further questions? No? Thank you very much
Thank
for
you for
coming
coming.
tonight. Appreciate it.
They really are the highlight of our portion of the presentation. But you can see anyone who wants a copy of their business plan, I'm sure they would love for me to offer to share that up openly. But then this is just a little glimpse of the mentors. I can't say enough about the community engagement that came of this particular initiative. So as someone who is really terrified of public speaking, the community engagement piece has been a huge tenet of all things at Ready Schools. But this is an example of the initiative really taking on a life of its own. This is not something that Jamie planned or Mrs. Myers planned or really even a team from the district planned. This was something that we saw in a student-run machine shop elsewhere and just very loosely imagined what this could be and listened to the students and to the staff when we gathered feedback 2 years ago now through Discovery. And it's just taken on a life of its own, and a huge piece of that is the community engagement piece. So these entrepreneurs that are members of the Dimension Mill in Bloomington, that's how we got connected with each of them. They're each just truly individual business owners in the community that were willing to give a little time on a Friday. And it was also a silver lining of COVID, because without Zoom, we probably would not have gotten them here in person, and we wouldn't have thought to do this virtually. So it was such a blessing in disguise the way this worked out. So of those community partners, Hoosier Hills Credit Union, you all, I'm sure, coming into Ellettsville have seen their new branch. Russ Wilkie is an example of someone who really kind of blindly trusted Dr. Sanders and I as we're navigating all of this. This is all brand new to us. Everything that I come to you with, it's brand new to education. And so we're really writing this as we go. And we had a handful of meetings with Hoosier Hills Credit Union. Russ has kids in the district and just said, how can we help? How can we get involved? And every facet of Ready Schools can benefit from support right now because of the newness, but the coffee shop is something that we're really trying to pour into, and they were willing to lockstep with us and run alongside us. So Hoosier Hills is here tonight to present one of the fun big checks just as a representation of their partnership with RBB and their monetary support, but they also were on that panel of financial institutions giving feedback to the kids during that Zoom presentation and have been willing to give of their human capital as well, so their time and their energy to support us. So I can't say enough about all of our partners, but tonight we really want to showcase Hoosier Hills Credit Union as a new commercial member of our community and supporter of Ready Schools. So with that, I'm going to invite them to come down and join us and take a quick picture, I think, and then I will let you guys move on with your agenda. So thank you, as always, for letting us come and share all of the things that are going on with Ready Schools. So.
Perfect right there. All right, on 3. 1, 2, and 3. A couple more to the stage.
Thank you so much for your generous donation and work that you've done with RBB schools and the Ready Schools. Thank you so much. We really appreciate having community members like you. Thank you so much.
Introduce him real quick. This is Russ Wilkie, and then Travis Markley, if I got that right, and Nan Morrow. Is that right? Okay, very good. We appreciate them and all their work. Like Jamie said, we have multiple meetings with Russ, and we approved their donation at our June board meeting. But Hoosier Hills, we are working with organizations and companies like this all through the Ellisville area, and we encourage our business partners throughout the community to come and work with us with Ready Schools, just like Hoosier Hills has chosen to do so. The Ellisville Chamber of Commerce is having a power luncheon in August, and Jamie and I will be there presenting about Ready Schools and hopefully inviting more partners like Hoosier Hills to join us. So thanks again.
Thank you very much. Okay, that was a wonderful presentation tonight. Our next agenda item is the 2021 GO bond, general obligation bond, outlook and update. Mr. Irwin.
Yeah, so this proposed 2021 GO bond is something that we've been talking about for a little while. At a past work session with the board, I had presented to you a capital replacement list to start to look at a bunch of the varying needs across the corporation, and this being a way that we could continue to address those things to make sure that our facilities and our operations and everything else going around the corporation stays at the level of which our community deserves. This GO bond is, whether it's going to be for buses or technology or HVAC or parking lots or other capital needs, it's going to address a lot of things and the financial means that we would need to get that done. And it also is being done in a way that's tax neutral with our current rate within our current capacity, so it has no effect on raising our tax rate or anything of that nature. We do have Jacob McClellan from Bose McKinney, and then Chad Blacklock and Matt Shoemaker from Stiefel to talk about their respective expertise within the GO bond, and I'll let Jacob start and then they can come up next.
Yeah, hi, Jacob McClellan with Bose McKinney and Evans. I'll be pretty quick. I'm just going to talk about the process. Chad and Matt will have more interesting information about the finances. So unlike your last few bond deals, this will be a direct obligation of the school corporation. So it won't be issued through a building corporation. I provided you all with a timetable, and you can see the kind of critical steps are we'll, after this meeting, get a notice to the newspaper. You guys will have to hold an additional appropriation hearing at your next meeting and a 1028 hearing because the project will be over $1 million. You'll just have that one board meeting where you'll consider I'll have a bond resolution to Jerry and to Dave before then. And once that's approved, Stiefel will work on the marketing. We were targeting a bond sale in late September with closing in mid-October. So I'd be happy to answer any questions on that. Otherwise, I'll turn it over to Stiefel.
So the 1028 hearing will be at our next regularly scheduled board meeting?
Yeah, you'll need to have the 1028 hearing, and then you'll need to appropriate the funds into the budget. So you'll have to have an appropriation hearing as well. And we'll have a bond resolution and an additional appropriation resolution for you. So, okay.
Thank you.
We have to go on projects first, though, right?
Yes.
If it's under the million, we don't have to do the 1028 hearing?
If it's under $1 million, you don't have to do the 1028
Per
hearing.
project.
Yeah, per
Okay.
project.
Not the total bond issue?
No, and this will be under the $5,575,000 threshold for a controlled project. So, you won't have to do any of the other authorizing steps that you might have to do if it was a bigger project. But you can combine it all and call it one project, and then you don't have to have, let's say it's a $2 million bond and it were 3 or 4 projects.
Right.
We can combine that all and call it one project, and then you only have to have one hearing, unless there's a reason you want to have more than one hearing.
Okay.
Anything else?
Thank you.
All right.
Good evening. Matt Shoemaker, Chad Blacklock with Stiefel. This is informational only, but Matt and Dr. Sanders asked us to come and just talk for a few minutes, mostly as a primer for next month when you go through some of these authorizing steps. So the first page shows just a bar graph of all of your outstanding debt and the debt payments. This really goes back to 2020 with the long-range planning that Dr. Sanders and Matt and the board has done, laying the foundation for this a bond issue to make sure that it is tax rate neutral and that payments can come on without increasing the community's tax rate. So you can see the payments from 21 to 22 are fairly stable, but then there is a drop in 23 and 24, and then larger drops 6 or 7 years down the road in 27 or 28. So if we go to the next page, we see what potential payments could be. We are always solving to the tax rate and not the debt service payments. So you may see the actual payment go up or down, but we're looking at the tax rate. So you'll see pretty quickly that there looks to be the payments going up in 2022 and 2023. The payments are going up, but the tax rate's not going to go up. It's a function of the budget. Chad does a lot of really good work of looking forward, doing this long-range planning, making sure that the payments that are coming on are going to be tax rate neutral. So you can see the line graph that depicts your projected tax rate. The bar graph shows your payments. So from 21 to 22 to 23, your payments, or your tax rate is going to be stable. Your payments will vary from year to year, but that still sets you up with a lot of flexibility down the road. You can see there's going to be a big drop projected in 2024, which at that time, if there are other facility needs, they can be taken care of at that time, again, without increasing the tax rate. The board has obviously been very forthcoming with keeping the tax rate stable, no increase. We want to do all of these projects under the current tax rate, again, which is why we're keeping that tax rate steady from 21 to 22 to 23. This just depicts the debt service fund. This page, you can keep going. The next page shows the total tax rate. Obviously, the constituents are not just paying attention to the debt service tax rate, it's the total tax rate. So that comprises both the debt service fund and the operations tax rate. The blue shows the debt service fund, and then the gray on top of that is the operations rate. And again, you can see 21 to 23 are very stable in that $9 tax rate. We have shown projected payments, but as you know, we're not going to have your assessed value until probably the second week of August or so. So all of this is projections as of now. Nothing is locked in. The bonds are not going to be sold until September. So once we get that assessed value to see how much you grow or don't grow, we will update those payments either up or down to make sure that we stick you with the $8 to the $9 tax rate. So nothing is set in stone at this point. The last page shows the financial parameters. This is what you'll see in the resolutions next month, but we always like to talk through these a month before. So the par amount of the bonds is set at $2.4 million. That is a not to exceed number. Doesn't mean you have to borrow $2.4 million. It means you can borrow anything up to $2.4 million. So if your assessed value doesn't grow as much as expected, you can borrow a lesser amount to make sure you still hit that tax rate. Costs of issuance are estimated at $150,000. That would leave estimated proceeds available for hard and soft costs and other capital items at $2,250,000. We're estimating the interest rate at 4%. That is extremely conservative. If you were to sell now, you'd be well under 2%. But given there's going to be time between now and when you actually issue the bonds, we'd like to be conservative. All of these are maximum financial terms. Estimated interest expense, $170,250. The estimated maximum tax rate impact, I do want to speak to this. It is showing 15.3 cents That is just a statutory formula. So it simply takes the largest payment you're going to have on these bonds and divides it by your current assessed value. It does not take into account you paying off other bond issues down the road. So maximum payment divided by your assessed value, that's going to give you 15 cents. That last line, the net impact after taking into account your other bonds being paid off, it's going to be a net impact of 0 cents. Questions on any of that? I know I went really quick. That's all we have, but we're happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Just on the last page, there's a note 1, but then on net impact, it also has in parentheses a 2.
Yeah, I think that
what's
was
that
something
reference?
that should have been deleted,
Just left-
that
okay.
just forgot to delete it. Yep.
I was looking for the note.
No, great question.
Any further questions? Thank you very much for your hard work on this and doing, trying to keep to our mandate, so to speak, of being tax neutral. I think that's important for the taxpayers to understand that we're able to do these things, yet not impact the overall tax rate. So from the school. So thank you very much for
thank you for your time.
keeping
Appreciate
track.
it.
Thank you. And next, we have consideration to approve occupational and physical therapist contracts. So, Mr. Irwin.
All right, so these are the contracts, like I said, for the physical therapists and occupational therapists that work with our special education students. These are just yearly renewals that we need to do, and so they're status quo with how we ended this past year. They were included in the packet for your review as well, and so this is, like I said, just a yearly renewal, and so with that, I ask for your approval.
Do we have a motion on the occupational and physical therapist contracts?
I move approval. A second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, by roll call vote, Mr. DeMoss,
Yes.
Mr. Durnall,
Yes.
Mrs. Jacobs,
Yes.
Mr. Tucker,
Yes.
and Mr. Kerr is yes as well. So the motion passes. Okay, our next item is consideration of eScript agreements. And so, Dr. Sanders, I'll let you take us through those.
Yes, so in January 2020, the board approved using S-Craft as the company that would provide our property and casualty insurance. And in February, we were to approve these agreements, but then COVID hit, and that requirement fell through the cracks. So apologize for that. But we are here tonight to take care of that, and this is something that we need to do to approve. The board needs to approve the agreement and needs to approve the appointment of me as a trustee. And so these documents have been reviewed by Ferguson Law. The agreement basically is the original agreement that set up the trust and goes through the different components of organizing such an organization. And the other, like I said, is each school corporation that's part of the S-Craft Trust needs to appoint a trustee, and I'm recommending that you approve me to be that trustee. So recommend your approval on both documents.
Motion?
I move approval.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Okay, any questions, comments?
Dr. Sanders, it's a one-time approval, correct? We just missed it the first time?
I can't.
A one-time approval? Is this something
Yes,
that we'll be
that's
doing?
right, yes.
Okay, so we don't vote on this every year?
No.
Okay, and we've been very happy with S-Craft, correct?
Yes, they've been very good. We could talk probably a long time tonight about what a great move that was. They are always very easy to communicate with. Whenever we have an issue, they are very timely in working with us, and they also do a lot of proactive work for us. We are definitely in a lot better position now than we were in the past.
Okay, thank you. It's an interesting collection of school corporations that are involved in this.
I'm sorry?
It's an interesting group of school corporations that's
Yeah.
involved. You wonder how they all came together to do this, but I'm glad they did.
Yeah, it's quite a lengthy list as well.
Yeah, it's a lot bigger than the health insurance trust.
All right, so the motion is on the table to approve the second amended and restated agreement and declaration of trust of the Educational Service Center's Risk Funding Trust and the appointment of Dr. Sanders as the SCRAFT trustee. So by roll call vote, Mr. DeMoss,
Yes.
Mr. Durnall,
Yes.
Mrs. Jacobs,
Yes.
Mr. Tucker,
Yes.
and Mr. Kerr is yes as well. The motion is passed. Now we have consideration to approve a contract with Dr. Buddy Berry, an interesting individual. Dr. Sanders.
Yes, so on normal years in the past, we would begin the school year by bringing everybody together on the teacher's first day back, and we will introduce our new teachers and have a keynote address. And last year we didn't get to do that. I went around and spoke to each staff individually, and we are looking forward to actually having that again this year in the auditorium. And we've invited Dr. Buddy Berry, who is the superintendent of Eminence Independent School District in Eminence, Kentucky. And if you look at their website, they're called the School on Fire. And we've actually, we've had Dr. Berry come here on a couple of occasions, and we actually had a team to go down and visit his school. And when he was here before, he's such a dynamic and inspiring speaker. More than anybody else, I get requests to bring him back. And so since last school year was such a tough year, I really wanted to bring somebody in to just really encourage our teachers and get them fired up for the new school year. And I couldn't think of anybody else but Dr. Berry. And I was very thankful when I found out he had that date open. So he'll come on August 10th and speak to our teachers. And I think the teachers will receive that very well.
I'll entertain a motion.
Make a
Mr.
motion.
President, notwithstanding the fact that he's a Kentucky Wildcat, I will, if you're making the motion, I'll
I'll make the
second it.
motion.
Motion did you second?
Second.
It's second, okay. It's been moved and seconded. Any questions, comments?
I had the opportunity to sit in on the first session that Dr. Berry did in our auditorium, and Dr. Sanders is exactly right. He's very positive. He's funny as heck, and he knows what he's talking about. They have achieved amazing things in Eminence. So if some of that rubs off on us, we'll be ahead. So.
I echo what Dr. Sanders said. I was on the group that went to Eminence, Kentucky a couple years ago, and that was very, he had a lot of entertaining things going on, a lot of excitement within the school. So the other thing I encourage you to do, Dr. Sanders, is keep him out of the coffee shop, because he already has enough wire already.
Well,
Sure
actually, one of my favorite things that they had at that school that we went to that I don't think I could get our insurance company to approve, but they had a slide that went from the second floor down to the first floor, and I actually went down and
Do we have
it was very awkward. I would love to do that and put that in our preschool, but like I said, I don't know if our liability insurance would allow that.
We used to have a shoe. Anyway. Okay.
Anything further? Hearing nothing, we'll, by roll call vote, Mr. DeMoss,
Yes.
Mr. Durnall,
Yes.
Mrs. Jacobs,
Yes.
Mr. Tucker,
Yes.
and Mr. Kerr is yes as well. Wonderful. Next, we have consideration to pre-approve some easements for two of our projects, the new EECC Primary Addition Project and the new Administration Support Services Building Project. Dr. Sanders.
Yes, so during miscellaneous, I will give you an update on our construction projects, but involving the new EECC preschool that's a part of the primary addition, we need to install a transformer, and it'll go, there's a drive into the new preschool, and it'll go there right at the corner to entrance into the preschool. But we would need an easement to be able to have REMC to do that. And then also for the new administration building, we also need a transformer installed, and that will be right at the corner of the practice football field. As you right across from the football field's a practice field, right on the corner is where that transformer will go, and there were maps that were included in the board packet. So those easements are in the process. We're waiting for the utility companies to provide us with the appropriate documentation, and rather than holding up the construction to the next meeting, we're just asking the board to give us pre-approval on those two easements, so when the documentation does arrive, we can put our signatures to it and move forward more quickly.
Motion?
I'd move approval.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions, comments? No. Again, these are routine things we would need to do for the project, so I believe pre-approval is warranted to keep the projects on going, moving forward. So any further questions, comments? Hearing none, by roll call vote, Mr. DeMoss,
Yes.
Mr. Durnall,
Yes.
Mrs. Jacobs,
Yes.
Mr. Tucker,
Yes.
and Mr. Kerr is yes as well, so the motion passed. Next, we have consideration to approve the 2021-2022 Contingency Learning and Safety Plan. Dr. Sanders.
Yes. So RBB's goal for the start of the 2021-2022 school year is to create an environment that gets us a step closer to a sense of normalcy in the safest way possible given current COVID circumstances. This school environment for Edgewood students must balance the academic, mental health, and safety needs of our students. Of course, the challenge is that there are many different opinions on how to get back to a sense of normalcy in schools, and there are many different thoughts on how quickly to get back to a sense of normalcy in school. As I created this contingency learning and safety plan, I actually went through our reopening school plan from last year, line by line, looking at the safety measures that could be revised. In other words, some safety measures that maybe we could eliminate or change in order to take that one step towards normalcy, but yet identify those safety measures that we had to keep in order to balance that academic, mental health, and the safety needs of our students and staff. I believe that this plan achieves this balance and enables RBB to take a step closer to a sense of normalcy in our school environment. The plan gives parents options in terms of in-school or virtual, and also gives parents options in terms of wearing a mask or not wearing a mask. Our plan also, and this is really important, our plan also needs to be a living document that we can change in order to effectively respond to continuing changes that exist, whether going into or coming out of the pandemic. As a school community, we should not pass over the second sentence of our plan, which says, "Our plan is a living document that is subject to change based on the current situation." During the 2021-2022 school year, RBB, like many other corporations, responded to changing COVID conditions. Let me go back. Actually, it's during the 2020-2021 school year that, like many other school corporations, RBB responded to the changing COVID conditions by adjusting our school schedule. As you remember, we implemented the hybrid schedule, the 4-1 schedule, e-learning, and eventually went to the 5-day plan. We took those actions and changed our schedules in the best interest of the students and our staff. My goal for our safety plan for 2021-2022 is to hopefully stay in one schedule, not to go back and forth and implement different schedules. That was really hard on students and staff all year long. But instead, to adjust our safety measures. So if I'm creating the right vision here, the hope is to stay in one schedule. And as the COVID numbers change, our response will be what we do with the different safety measures. So for example, the number one question, and obviously by the comments that were made tonight, the number one question has been, what is the corporation going to do about masks? The plan submitted to the board tonight states that masks are optional for students and staff. But I want everybody to know, and this probably won't be very popular, but if the data that we're watching happens to worsen and the COVID situation in our community gets worse instead of better, which we hope that doesn't happen, there is a possibility that we may have to adjust our plan accordingly. But instead of going to a different schedule, our first step might be to require masks. So God forbid if in September the numbers get worse, either throughout our community or our corporation as a whole or an individual school, the most appropriate and safest response might be to reinstate the safety measure of wearing masks. No, nobody wants to do that. I hope we don't get that way. I hope every step that we take from here on out is revising our safety plan and having less and less and less safety measures. But we want to be able to move forward and get back to a sense of normalcy in the safest way possible. Our true north is going to be to keep masks optional. But we have to be prepared that the circumstances might cause us to have to require masks. All last year, and I've talked to many of these folks that were here tonight, these really good people that I don't know, I've probably met with all of you at one point, had a lot of good conversations. But these folks and our whole school community, they trusted our leadership. And that won't ever be forgotten. It'll go with me for the rest of my life, and I appreciate that, and I want to thank everybody. But I ask for that very same support as we hopefully navigate our way out of the pandemic together and as safe as possible. The highlights of our 2021-2022 contingency learning and safety plan is that we are giving parents the option of in-school or all virtual. Masks are optional for students and staff. Now, I have to emphasize the CDC and the Indiana Department of Health does recommend masks for those who are not vaccinated. In the guidelines that we received from both organizations, it clearly states that masks are recommended. However, it will be optional, and we're hoping that parents will take heed to that recommendation, but they are optional. Masks are required on school buses per the CDC and Indiana Department of Health requirements. The CDC mandates that masks are used on all public transportation, and school buses are considered part of the public transportation. So there's not a school corporation in the state of Indiana that really has a choice in that. Everybody has to make sure that masks are being worn on the school buses. We want to, in talking with our principals, we want to balance social distancing, but yet work on providing our students with collaborative-based instructional strategies. So we're going to continue with the students being in rows facing in one direction, but we're also giving teachers the option of putting their students in a pod of no more than 4, and then each pod would have to be 3 feet apart. We have to continue the contact tracing protocol. We do not have a choice in that. We have to do that. With the quarantine, the state guidelines and the CDC guidelines states that those who are close contacts and are vaccinated do not have to be quarantined. They should still monitor symptoms and isolate if symptoms develop. Those who are unvaccinated, if they are determined to be a close contact or if they test positive, then they are still required to quarantine. The amount of days has changed and has been adjusted that close contacts may return on day 8 with a specific negative test and precautions, which is the quarantining, day 11 with precautions, or day 15 if you don't do anything. There's much more to the plan, and I heard the comments on field trips, and I'm very transparent, so I'll just give you exactly what I was thinking on that. Last year, we didn't allow field trips at all. And so as I'm giving consideration to this plan, I'm just thinking, okay, what are we going to do with field trips? We're going to continue not to have them. Would one option be to not allow field trips the first semester and see how things go, and maybe bringing in field trips second semester? And so I decided that, well, I'd like to be able, in the theory of taking one step towards normalcy, what can we do to still have field trips but do so in a safe manner? And so I determined that this safety measure would be that field trips would be allowed as long as they were going, students were going to a place where it wasn't open to the public. I thought that was a very good safety measure to keep everybody away from the public. The question about volunteers, I'm going to give that some thought. I'm going to give that some consideration. The whole idea of stating that volunteers on a field trip had to be vaccinated was just, bottom line is, how can we do field trips and stay safe? And I thought that was, if we could have field trips and ask our volunteers that are going to be vaccinated, I thought that was a safe step to take in and to continue to have field trips. But we'll give that some thought. This is a living document, and if there's anything I've learned over the last year, year and a half, is to listen. Listen to our staff members, to listen to our parents, listen to students. There's no way in the world that we can accommodate everybody. I wish there was a magic answer. I would have paid a lot of money for that, to find that magical pill, but it doesn't exist. Really, I would say we all agree on a couple things in this room. We all agree that we just can't wait to get back to being normal. But we also agree that we really don't have much control on the pandemic except to follow those safety measures to keep everybody safe as we're working through the pandemic. And the part that I know everybody agrees on is we all want everybody to be safe and to get through this pandemic without any more hurt or challenges that's already placed on us. And so I asked the board to approve this plan. There are some very specific components that are very school specific, like the procedures for lunchroom, school specific like arrival and dismissal procedures that the schools will be working on and communicating to their parents before the start of the school year. I'd entertain any questions or comments.
Actually, let's get a motion to put this item on the agenda or on the floor. We have a motion?
Mr. President, I'll move approval of the contingency reopening plan as presented.
We have a second?
A second is with a disclaimer that this is a living document. I agree with you. It could adjust as climates change. And unfortunately, who knows what's going to happen in the next 3 to 4 weeks. I mean, it could be great. It could go the other way. So I second the motion based on the fact that it will be reviewed as time progresses over the next 3 to 4 weeks.
Okay, moved and seconded, so questions, comments?
I agree with what Brad is saying. I think that some of my concerns.
I have a comment. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes,
Go
yes,
ahead.
please go ahead.
I'm just making sure that everybody can hear me. So, this is a big concern for me for the contingency plan. And, just listening to the families that have come to speak today, I just want them to be.
Sorry, Mr. Jacobs, we lost you. Mrs. Jacobs?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, try again. Try.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes. Yes, we can.
Okay, so I just want everyone I just want everyone to be aware that the contingency plan can change. These plans have been evolving all year long and will continue to do so as things progress. And I just want families to understand that. Several of them.
I'm sorry, I've lost you again, Mrs. Jacobs.
I get that 100%. And that is something that we have to be very cognizant and how the students will be treated. Vaccine versus non-vaccinated versus mask wearing, non-mask.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Jacobs, we lost you again. Hello? Mrs. Jacobs?
Yes.
Yes, we lost you again.
Ask her to call my cell phone. I just asked her, tell her to call my cell.
Could you call Mr. Tucker's cell phone, and we'll see if we can get that to come through.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, I will do that.
All right, thank you.
Mr. President, I agree. I think I know what Angie's trying to say there, and thank you so much for coming tonight and tell us your concerns. And a charge to Mr. Sanders is, and I'm sure you're aware, would make sure these people are heard and make sure that adjustments can be made whenever they can be made. That would be my choice. So, thank you, sir. Thank you all for coming.
I'm going to put you on speakerphone. You're going to be speaking like 4,500 people in an auditorium.
Mrs. Jacobs, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Okay.
I'll try this again.
Well, she
Okay,
coming
so
through?
what I was saying was that I want everyone to understand that the contingency plan can change, just like it evolved all through last year, and it will continue to do so. It will constantly be evaluated. Everything's not 100% set in stone. This is how we're going to be all year, and I want everyone to be aware of that. The families that talked about mental health, I completely agree with that. I understand that 100% as I dealt with that in my own family. So I'm with everyone 100% with that. We also have to understand that COVID is very real. I'm a nurse. I work in it. I have worked in it for a year and a half. It is extremely real. The variant is there, and it is stronger than ever before. So we have to be cautious, careful, and look at all sides of the matter. We just have to be very careful in how we're opening up our school system. And, you know, we were talking about the field trips with the vaccinated, family volunteers that are coming in. Again, that's one of those things that we have to be very cautious as to what type of illness, that we may be bringing to our students and being on buses and that sort of stuff. So we have to be very careful. So I know that people we're excited about being able to get the mask off students. I know students that are non-vaccinated that realize that they may be quarantined because of that. They're okay with that. I think that, as parents, we have to, again, talk to our children just like we did last year going through this pandemic starting, we need to be kind to one another. We need to be supportive of our friends and fellow students, and our educators are going to be the same. Our corporation is very strong. We're very supportive. We're a big family, and that's how it will be expected to be ran. And I just want, I want to tell everybody I hear everything that they're saying. I've looked at the emails. I'm sorry I'm out of town right now, but I'm with you all 100%, and I think going this direction to start this school year is a very good thing. That's all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mrs. Jacobs. Any other questions, comments?
Can we comment before the vote, is it on the table now?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so I just want to echo what Angie or Ms. Jacobs said, is I don't want it to be a mask versus mask dissension amongst students and staff, and everybody needs to get along. I mean, it's still going to be interesting to start the year, to say the least. And I think if I heard correctly tonight, everybody that was here tonight was more of a, I'm happy the masks are going to be an option. But then on the flip side, and for the people that are watching from home, we do read your emails. I know Dr. Sanders responds to them and is more than happy to meet with people. And I encourage you to set up a time to meet with Dr. Sanders, because he does weigh things back and forth. And I will say one thing, he does listen, and he is very transparent. But with that being said, there's another faction that thinks that we need to have everybody in mask still, and I kind of see a little bit of that too. But it's just a tough slope to go back and forth. So as she said, I don't want there to be tension within the school amongst who has a mask, who doesn't. And I would just hope if you were a parent on a field trip, and of course you're going to have to pass a criminal background check first. That's a given, right? But you would use enough common sense that you wouldn't put kids at risk by going on that school bus sick. And I know that it's going to be tough on the bus drivers this year because that's a guarantee. They're going to have a mask on when they're on the bus. And I hope the kids will just cooperate and understand, and I know kids will step up to the plate on that. So I think that will be hopefully a smooth part of our process. And then we got to trust our teachers and administrators. They're in it every day. They've been trained. They know what they're doing. And as far as arranging the classroom to be safe, I trust them. I mean, we have to trust them, and I do trust them because we've got good people working here, and we'll continue to grow with this as it progresses.
Mr. DeMoss, did we catch you off earlier?
There is no question that this is going to be the toughest vote that I have faced in my short time on the board. And as Mr. Tucker said, I appreciate those of you who came to speak tonight, and I understand the desire to take off the damn masks. I get it. On the other hand, I have also received communication from some who are scared to death that their children are going to be in a classroom and they will be vulnerable and they are scared. And I understand that too. And I feel for all of them. And I did have the opportunity to witness recesses at the intermediate school while I was walking my dogs, and watching the kids run around and get the chance to take off their masks outside. And I know that they loved the fresh air, and they were, as Mrs. Lee said, the joy of hearing kids screaming and having fun was gone for part of the year, and it was starting to come back as we got to the end of this last school year, and I hope that process continues. At the high school, I got to sit in and be a proctor for a couple of the AP exams, and I was, I taught at the high school for 32 years, and I had wondered how the mask thing was going, and so I was in the auxiliary gym with about 40 high school juniors and seniors for 3 hours, and they were terrific. The masks stayed on. They did their work. They were serious. They were terrific. I was so proud of them. And I also felt bad for them because I had my mask on and I hated every minute of it, but that's the way that it was going. And I think that the students and we have to just recognize there are some things we're going to need to continue to do to keep people as safe as possible. And I just hope we can, as they said, work together and continue as a family, as a community, to support our kids, support our teachers, support our school. And let's start from this and judge the situation as it grows. But thank you.
Dr. Sanders, as far as the quarantining and those who are vaccinated versus unvaccinated, are we assuming that they are not vaccinated unless they tell us? And then if they tell us they are, then they would have, they would follow under that. So those individuals who have been vaccinated but do not want to say one way or another would just follow the protocols of those who are not vaccinated.
That's correct. We'll follow the same procedures we did last year in terms of determining our close contacts, and the principals, when they call up and tell a parent that their son or daughter is a close contact, they'll be saying that they are quarantined, and here are the number of days that they could be quarantined, and then leave it up to the parents then to say well, my son or daughter is vaccinated, and then if that's the case, then they would not have to quarantine.
I know some were talked about worrying about those who were vaccinated versus unvaccinated and how they might be treated at school. Honestly, I'm worried about the optional mask because as you probably saw, I wore a mask in today. I've been vaccinated, but I still wear a mask when I'm in areas with people I don't know. You know, I go into the store and there's a few people wearing masks, but I see a lot of people look at me and roll their eyes because I'm wearing a mask. I don't want that to happen to the kids at school who believe that they should be wearing a mask and that I'm more worried about them getting, I don't know, want to say picked on or funny looks or something like that because they're wearing the mask. And, you know, so that's a concern I have because I know I get them as an adult in public. So I'm worried about that. So I think our parents need to do a good job of letting their students know that it's okay for people to wear a mask if they want to. It's optional, but it is okay for them to do that. And, you know, so just treat them just like any other student because, you know, they have that right to wear a mask. You know, like I had the right to wear the mask in today. I said I do get looks. I see it. I know it happens. And I hope our teachers and staff do the best they can to watch out for that as well. I am worried about the new variants. The Delta variant is becoming more prolific in Indiana. And if you look at the Indiana coronavirus site, it'll show the percentage that are coming. The amount of Delta variants has raised 40-some%. I think it was 46%. So since the last recording of that, so that is a concern. The multi-system inflammation that children are experiencing, that is very, very serious. That is a concern. And I do know also that there's people out there who wouldn't mind to be vaccinated but can't for medical reasons, and one of those was mentioned tonight as well. So just because somebody's not vaccinated doesn't mean anything either, that they don't believe in it or anything like that. It's just some people can't be. And so it is a concern. It's difficult for me, and it's kind of like calling a snow day. I'm glad Dr. Sanders does that, and I don't have to. So I appreciate the work that he has put into this, and I believe in his work and his research and his talking with people. I would prefer more stringent requirements to start off with, quite honestly. But I do understand that you have to weigh all kinds of factors. And I trust Dr. Sanders and am supportive of him. But we, Dr. Sanders and I have had discussions on how this is a living document. And it's not that now that it's out there, we're going to ignore anything that happens in the community. That's not the case. I'm going to be watching for it. I know Dr. Sanders will be watching for it. I know the other board members will be watching as well. And I know parents will be. And parents will be letting us know what they see and what their concerns are. And, and we do welcome that. We do welcome to hear what your thoughts are. I do read the emails. Depending on if it's directly to me, I'll respond unless I found out that Dr. Sanders already has. Usually we have discussions, but I try to respond to everybody and do, unless I know somebody else has responded. So, but we we encourage you to keep those lines of communication open. We want to hear from you. I have heard, not from a lot of people since it came out, but what I've heard have been all across the continuum on what we should be doing. And there's not, you know, unless this is exactly what you want, you're going to find fault in it because it can't be what everybody wants. And it's just because everybody's wants are different. So, so this is a difficult topic, difficult subject. But again, we do appreciate the input, and please continue to give us that input. Are there any other further questions or comments? Okay. By roll call vote, the motion is to approve the 2021-2022 Contingency Learning and Safety Plan as a living document. Mr. DeMoss?
Yes.
Mr. Durnall?
No.
Mrs. Jacobs?
Yes.
That was yes. I don't know if it came across.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Tucker?
Yes.
And Mr. Kerr is a yes as well, so the motion passed 4-1. Okay, our next item is miscellaneous information. Dr. Sanders?
Yes, during miscellaneous, I wanted to be able to give the board an update on our various construction projects. The junior high, high school renovation project, which is now the cafeteria expansion. That is going very well. We're expecting to get the punch list by the end of this month, and everything should be completed, and we should be in that area the week before school starts. Right now, they're installing windows and casework and leveling floors. We meet every 2 weeks on that project. The Innovative Learning Center, which was mentioned tonight, is due to be completed or estimated to be completed around October 31st. Right now, they're framing interior walls and installing ductwork. The demolition is all complete for that project. For the new preschool, we have had some delays, mainly because of being able to get steel and other supplies. That estimated completion is at the end of December. And right now the steel is actually arriving. It is arriving. I know I said last month that it was arriving and it didn't, but I've been up there and it is arriving. And they'll be starting to erect this steel around August 2nd. The new administration and support services building, right now they're estimating that to be completed around before spring break probably. They are right now, once again, that was another project that we've had some shortage of materials. So the architect is working to identify some alternative roof framing systems. So that's kind of that project has not been having a lot of progress lately, but once we get everything in, it should pick up. The transportation lot is seeing a lot of activity, and it needs to. It's going to be finished by the end of this month, and right now it's kind of cool to see them pouring the curbs and seeing that project nearing completion. The pool project is due to be finished mid to late August. Right now they're laying the pool deck and locker room tile, resetting the lockers. They're finished installing door frames and doors. They're finalizing pool equipment and installing the starting blocks. And then the HVAC projects are due to be finished September. Now the schools will have HVAC, and that won't be interrupted. It'll be working off of the old system. But right now they're working on the air handler unit on top of the gym, and over a classroom wing of there going outside of the media center, that wing, that they're working over top of those classrooms. So that's where we are with construction.
Thank you. And now the superintendent's report, Dr. Sanders.
All right, well, we received our iLearn results. There was a day when, years ago, when the then iStep results came to us by mail. I mean, I'm talking regular mail, and we would be waiting at the mailbox for those scores to come in. Now we wait at the computer and wait for them to come electronically. But we received our results this year, and it told us what we pretty much already knew, that the impact that being out of school and not having that direct in-person instruction did cause the scores across the state to go down. Our scores at RBB for grades 3 through 8 are above the state average. And usually that's a really good thing, but when the state average is low and you say your scores are above the state average, it's not, doesn't have the impact that it normally does. But there are some things to celebrate. One, and we already knew this too, we have very hardworking students, very supportive parents, and dedicated teachers. And that's the perfect ingredient for a successful school. So we're very proud of the hard work that they put in, whether they were doing virtual or being in person. Everybody worked really hard this year. And so the consideration of the test scores this year really it's not that meaningful to us because it's telling us what we already knew. However, the school corporation regularly conducts assessments throughout the school year. And we have benchmark assessments that the students take, and the teachers have formative assessments that they do in the classroom. So really, throughout a school year, teachers are paying attention to where the students are on mastering the skills and the standards that are set for their grade level. So we really appreciate all the hard work. So what did we learn about this? We said that maybe the scores were not as meaningful or as impactful as we've seen in the past. Well, we have learned that we've identified different ways to address those learning gaps. One is that we really expanded summer school this year. We've had 2 sessions, and we finished the first session in June, end of June, 1st of July, and we recently started, elementary started their second summer session last week. The junior high started their second summer session, or their first summer session today, and then the high school will start their second summer session next Monday. And so it's gone very well. We're also using some of our ESSER funds to provide our schools with additional resources that will be in place for this fall. We are utilizing some of our current resources, such as Title I, and using them a little bit differently in order to focus and zero in on those skills that the students need the most work on. And then we are going to continue with delayed start Wednesdays this year in order to give the teachers time to collaborate and work together more and to talk about their students and where their students need to be academically in order to get these students back up to where they need to be. So that's a report on our iLearn results. New student enrollment opened today, so anybody new to the corporation can go on our website and be able to enroll their child. The student registration, which takes place every year, will open up. That window opens up August 2nd. The teacher's first day is August 10th, and the student's first day is August 11th. And all the information, the contingency learning plan that we just approved, and all the information on registering, enrolling, transferring students, all that could be found on our website. That's my report.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sanders. Next, we have RBBEA comments. Mr. Ewells.
Good evening, everyone. Good to see you. Here it is, July 19th already. So I know what that means. Next time we meet, we'll already have started school. So we're in that window. I'm getting excited, to be honest, because barring any catastrophe, and it's been mentioned many times, can't predict the future, but it's got to look way more normal than this last year is, and that's why I'm excited to see the kids. And from a day-to-day outlook, it ought to be a lot more normal, and that's what we're all going to hope for. On that note, I want to put a plug in for the Mustang Coffee Corral. I'll be a repeat customer when that gets open, I guarantee it. Really, I just want to say thank you to the ever-present communication from Dr. Sanders, sending out to parents, to teachers alike. Can't predict the future. We all know that, but at least we know what's going on, no matter what side you're sitting on it, so appreciate that. And we'll always be in contact. So that's really all I have. It's been a long evening, so we'll see you when school starts up next time.
Thank you, Mr. Ewells. I did get a message from Mrs. Jacobs. She unfortunately lost connection. She did say that my only comment, because it's time for board member comments, is to thank all the families for coming and speaking to the board, and we apply their input. Thank you for the donations, and I want to wish Amy Phillips well, and we will miss her. Looking forward to the school year. Thank you. Now on to Mr. DeMoss.
I'll start with a shout out. You probably don't know this, but Mr. Ewells just ran a 50K in Wisconsin, and he placed first in his age group. So the man is insane. But that's 31 miles for those of you who don't do metric. And he was still able to walk and do other things afterwards. I don't know how. I want to welcome Nick McGinnis and welcome Ashley McGinnis back into the fold. Ashley did teach English at the high school for a couple of years, and it'll be great to have her back. And Amy Phillips was actually Amy Kramer when I first met her. She was the first EHS grad that I met when I started teaching a number of years ago, and I knew EHS was a special place that turned out grads like her. So she was just a bundle of energy. And thanks so much to Hoosier Hills Credit Union, as well as Jamie and Stacia and the students. Great job. I mean, they've done a lot, and it's just it's really exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing. I'll be behind Mr. Ewells in line for the coffee. So.
Mr. Durno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll echo what Mr. DeMoss just said, not put you all through that again. Thank you all for coming tonight, speaking your mind. I appreciate that. Work with Dr. Sanders on the limitations and the guidelines, and as things get better, I'm sure those guidelines will ease up for us. So I want to get back to normal more than anyone, but we'll have to work together to get that done. But again, thank you for coming. That's all I have, Mr. President.
Mr. Tucker.
Again, kudos to the business class and the coffee cafe, and thanks again to Hoosier Hills for their nice donation this evening. And I'd like to personally thank Ms. Phillips also for her years here at RBB. She was my son's music teacher at Steinsville. I think I got her just right in first grade. And I think she convinced him he wasn't going to be a musician. So I think that was good, maybe on a career move at that point for him. So I thank her for all her time, and I've enjoyed her over the years and watching her kids grow up as well. So I wish her the best in her
new venture. Again, I just hopefully ask everybody to be cooperative with each other, and I think Ms. Edwards, if your curriculum concerns, I encourage you to meet with Dr. Sanders regarding that, and hopefully have the answers that you may be looking for.
Thank you. I want to thank you all for coming tonight. We do actually really benefit from speakers when they come and let us know how they're feeling, what their concerns are, and what recommendations they may have for us. It does mean a lot. The coffee shop presentation was two students. It looks like there was two others that were on the business plan as well. They did an amazing job. I really am excited to see the coffee shop come along, and it is really great that it's utilizing the students as much as absolutely possible in getting that project going. It's not being handed down from the teachers. It's the students that are going out, that are digging in and doing the research and putting all the blood, sweat, and tears in it, so to speak. So we appreciate them. We appreciate the two students who spoke tonight. We appreciate Hoosier Hills. I'm glad they had a chance to do their presentation tonight of their check. We benefit so much from our community partners, our business partners, and we so much appreciate them. Amy Phillips is a big loss for the corporation. She's a wonderful person. I've known her for many years. Very, very good person, and I wish her well. Nick McGinnis, I had limited contact with him before. When I serve as a guardian ad litem at times for children, and I had a case where that child was at the school he was the principal of, and he was very, very dedicated to his students. He worked with me to do the best that I could for that student as the guardian ad litem. And so that's not special education, but as a person, I thought he was excellent. He kept me informed as the courts allowed of what was going on with the child, and he obviously cared. He went above and beyond for that student. So I'm sure he'll do that for the other students as well. So again, thank you everyone for coming. It's been a long night, so we wish you well, and this meeting's adjourned.